Hello, Home Slices is here with Home Slice Adulting coming to you with my review for The Circle Season 3, Episode 9. Oh snap, which is titled Ghost Busting and Catfishing. And, y'all, this episode felt like it was very jam-packed with a lot of stuff. So I'll try to go through things as much as possible. But I don't want to forget to say thank you for clicking on this video. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And tell me what you think about what happened on this particular episode. I mean, so many things happen. So when we start off the episode, we have two influencers, Daniel and Nick, who are both a part of two different alliances, who each get to pick somebody to block. They are both very conflicted, and they don't even have the opportunity to do an influencer chat to bounce ideas off of each other or to try to save people who are a part of their alliances. So another curveball has been thrown, and it's crazy. So let's go ahead and go through. If you all see me looking up, I'm scrolling through on my TV so that I don't forget anything. But of course, everyone is on pins and needles, and Nick and Daniel are going through their logic on what is going on, like who they're going to block. And so Daniel gets to go first. He talks about his reasons of why he wants to block this person, and it is Jackson, thank goodness, because Jackson, again, was a robot. She was so focused. Rachel was the person who was playing Jackson. And I'll say it again. Rachel was so focused on not being herself that she wasn't anybody. She didn't form any opinions. She didn't, Jackson was supposed to be a single white man, a single straight white man, and didn't try to holler at any of the ladies in the circle. Didn't show any romantic interest at all. Didn't have any personality. Didn't really have any opinions on anything. She just has the personality of a cucumber. Okay, so, people thought she was a catfish, and rightfully so. Now, what I will say is that James has a lot of issues. I don't necessarily think that he is funny. But what I will say is that he is perceptive, okay? James really is the only person on this show that I've seen that has so accurately pinpointed catfish. It's a little freaky, okay? That's what I will say. So everyone's on pins and needles trying to figure out who is going to be blocked. Eventually we have Jackson being blocked, who is actually played by Rachel. Again, rightfully so. She wasn't playing the game right anyway. But then unfortunately, Roxana is the person who gets chosen. That's the person that Nick chose. In that moment when Roxana was blocked, I felt two ways. The first way was like, dang, Roxana? And the second part was like, Nick, you messed up. This was Nick's chance to get Kaye out. Kaye is absolutely his top competitor, and she is worth more to him gone than she is to him there. Because to be honest, Nick's allies really do not cross over per se with Kaye's allies, unless you count James, who's kind of playing both sides. But he's new, so he's not too much of a threat. So if the people who ride for Kaye don't like you anyway, it's not like there's really any love lost. You get rid of a big competitor and you keep your standing with the people who you have formed alliances with. So, I think he made a mistake. It was the biggest mistake of his freaking life. But maybe it'll pay off in the end. Maybe. So, of course, the two people who have been blocked get to go visit people, and they decide to visit the two influencers. Roxana goes to see Daniel. They have a kiki. They talk. Roxana seems very befuddled by the fact that Nick viewed Roxana as more of a threat than Kaye. So Kaye, I'm just now kind of realizing that Kaye didn't really tell any of the people in her alliance that she and Nick have a mini alliance. So Kaye's playing the game right. She was able to get through to the leader of the other alliance and um, guaranteed herself a spot. She is a smooth talker, I'll say that. Then of course Rachel comes in and she is Jackson and they're all flirty and all that stuff, and she admits to being a catfish. He lies to her and says that she's playing the game well. Ugh, whatever. He's only saying that because he likes her. And Nick will flirt with anybody. Anyways, um, he comes right out and admits that he is Vince too. And she's like, "What? Oh my gosh. Yeah. I wish that I would have played myself so I could have flirted with you. Oh my gosh." Anyways, again, cucumber personality girl is gone. Thank goodness. It's the next morning. They get messages from the two people who are left. Roxana, she had, a lot to say. A lot to say. And when she left with a bang. She was like, "I'm going to miss some of y'all. Okay. Some of y'all all right with me. Y'all know who y'all are." Basically, peace out. Then next up, we have a message from Jackson. Jackson admits to being a catfish. And the two other catfish, Isabella, who's played by Sophia, and Ashley, who's played by Matthew, are like, "Oh, this will take some suspicion off of me." And it's like, no, it won't. No, it won't. So, everybody comes into the circle chat. They talk about what happened, and for it feels like, I don't understand this. I don't know if this is the first time that this has happened, but for them to have revealed a catfish, nobody seemed relieved. They all seemed like, "Oh, it's too bad she's gone. It's too bad that she didn't play herself." This lady was lying to you all and doing a horrible job at it. And she gets a pass because she's a cute white girl. Oh, come on. Okay. Get yourself together. Jeez. Anyways, Nick is playing Vince still, so Vince gets in a word at the last minute, but who cares? Move on. Next thing you know, the circle notifies all of the players that Vince has left the circle and that Vince was not a real person. It was a burner profile for somebody else. And interestingly enough, it sounded like a lot of the players' logic put Nick in the spotlight. So that was interesting. Let's see, who talked next? Kaye and Nick have a conversation. Kaye is just being super thankful that she is still there and that they are still in an alliance. And Kaye is prying to see if Nick was Vince. She felt like Nick was either James or, she felt like Vince was either James or Nick. And so she's trying to try to get some information, but Nick is trying to throw her off the trail. And he might have done it, except that he thinks that she's still suspicious. Nick seems to still be playing the game, whereas Kaye seems to feel like they are starting to build a genuine friendship and alliance. And Nick is still suspicious of Kaye that that's not what she's doing. So it's kind of one-sided right now. So that's what I got from that exchange. Next up, we have James talking to Ashley. I don't think James is funny, but he is a very perceptive player, and he has a conversation with Ashley, and I'm not sure if he has ever had a conversation with Ashley before, like ever, throughout this whole season. But it's interesting to see that he reaches out to Ashley to try to figure out who Vince was. And they both kind of settle on Isabella, which I don't mind because catfish or Vince, it don't matter. Get him out of there. But it was interesting to see how Matthew, who is playing Ashley, turned on Isabella. Matthew's playing a pretty good game as well. And then the conversation turns personal and like really interesting, because James says to Ashley, you know, I'm an ally of the LGBTQ community. I have a trans brother, and you know, I know what they go through, and you have an ally for life. And that warms Matthew's heart, and he kind of returns the favor. So they are building an alliance. And once again, I don't necessarily care for James, but he is probably one of the more skilled and perceptive players, and he might just come and win this thing. Because one thing that I will say about James is that he has a strategy that's similar to a strategy that I would probably have, and that's connecting with each person kind of one-on-one. He's made alliances with both the guys and with the people who are on Kaye's radar. So he might be the next influencer. I'll say that. But moving on, next we get a new player. Her name's Jackie. She's 33. She's a host. She's 6'2". She loves video games. Blah, blah, blah. Something about her is a little off-putting. And I don't know if it's like new person fatigue, like from having so many players having come and gone already, and it's like, dang, can we just wind it down? I don't know if that's the reason why I feel annoyed by her, or if it was something that she actually did or said to annoy me. But anyways, she comes in, she keeps talking about how she has arrived. She said that multiple times, and I'm like, girl, okay, whatever. So in her About Me section, she talks about all of the things that she enjoys. Everyone seems to have some type of commonality with her except for Daniel. And so they all welcome her into the chat except for Daniel. They all try to find some point of commonality, whether it be games, beach volleyball, being a nerd, doing cosplay, whatever. They're all introducing themselves. And like Daniel said, because now the alliances are basically split in half, whoever really gets Jackie and influences her the most is the person who is going to tip the scales for either side. So all of them are putting in their bid, I'll say. So moving on, they all do that. It actually got a little bit annoying, the way everybody was so like butt kissy. Ugh, didn't care for that. James also talked about flirting with James. You're not that cute. I'm sorry. Anyways, moving on. They play a game called Circle of Fortune instead of Wheel of Fortune. And the host, who is actually a host, gets to decide who answers these questions that fall into different categories. So there's a little bit of flirtiness that goes on, and Jackie assigns the question about the dirtiest habit to Nick, and she's like, oh, you look like a dirty boy, and he's like, oh yeah, talk dirty to me, whatever. And he's like openly flirting with Jackie, even though he's supposed to be fake official with Isabella, the lesbian. So that's not good. Then there was question 2. What was question 2? Let's see. Question 2 was about, I'm sorry, y'all. I'm trying to fast forward it, and I'm trying to get to the right spot. There's a bullseye. Oh, asking like who they're looking out for. Who's their biggest rival? I think that's what it was. And so Ashley responds that Kaye is their biggest rival. So whoop whoop. Who didn't know that? Matthew was very calculating in how he would answer that question. Moving on, we have another question. about what a person is going to do with all the money if they win. And they asked Kaye. Jackie felt like Kaye had rubbed some people the wrong way. And I feel like there was like a kind of lapse in logic. If Kaye is perceived to be a threat, it doesn't mean she threatened anybody. It means that she's one of the more popular people in the group, which means she's probably rubbed the least amount of people in the wrong way. You see where I'm going there? But anyways, Kaye gives this very good response, and it's probably true that she's going to help her parents with the down payment, that she has somebody close to her that's in has some mental illness issues, and she wants to put them in a facility. And it is a very warm and fuzzy response, and nobody necessarily seemed to be mad about that response. Even Isabella, who does not like Kaye, thought the response was okay, but that didn't change the fact that Kaye was her biggest rival. Now, somebody put in the comments to one of my previous videos that they were very suspicious of how Sophia, who's playing Isabella, was going after Kaye. And they even said that there might be like some racist implications. And I thought, well, that's interesting. I don't know, and I can't confirm that, but she does kind of seem to have a vendetta against Kaye. But moving on, there is one final question that James has to answer about who they think is a catfish. And unfortunately, they leave us on a cliffhanger, and James is not able to tell us. I think that it's good that James is the person who gets to say who he thinks is a catfish. First off, because he is the most perceptive, and chances are the person that he says will actually be a catfish. So it's not like you're accusing someone of being a catfish who is not a catfish. The other piece of it is he's one of the newer players in the game, so there can be a little bit of doubt sprinkled across any of his accusations of who he thinks is a catfish. Because he is new and hasn't necessarily built super strong relationships with people. So that makes the game more interesting. So that's it for this episode. I feel like it was a lot. It was jam-packed. We blocked 2 people. We got a new player. We're getting to know everybody. People are having conversations. We're starting to really wind down because it's the conversations are turning more genuine and turning more personal and things like that. So one thing that I will say about James, again, James might be winning me over. Like, initially I was like, okay, James is just, he's doing too much and there's not a big payoff and he's not that funny. But what I will say, again, super perceptive, playing the game the way that I would have wanted to play the game. And the one thing that he did in this one, when he was having the conversation with Ashley about his trans brother, is how he acknowledged that he was not an ally to his brother in the beginning, and how he would still call his brother his sister, and how he would still use the wrong pronouns, and how he wishes that he could have been an ally sooner. And I was like, that is like some real ish right there. That is like wonderful that he can make that acknowledgement, that I should have been a better brother, and that I should have been an ally, and that I should have been more supportive. And so James might be winning me over. At first I wasn't here for him, but he does have some redeeming qualities, I'll say. So let me know what you think in the comments down below. How do y'all feel about James? How do you feel about Jackie, the new person? Let me know down below. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And peace out, home slices.